Ruby, Sapphire. Which game was truly the best? Nobody knows, but what we do know is that there was a third game. A game that changed the game. A game that had a different story. A different evil team setup. They were the same two teams, but both teams had an agenda that you had to stop. But because of stories in Ruby and Sapphire focusing in on either Team Magma or Aqua, both had to have their own videos. Here, with a different, more expansive story in Pokemon Emerald, it had to have its own video. However, because of this, we can return to our former glory and go back to the 10 best Pokemon. All this is calculated with a formula ranking matchups from -3 to 3. With all the data pulled together, we'll find out who truly are the best individual Pokemon of Hoenn in Pokemon Emerald. But whether or not you've seen those already, let's go right ahead and get into the top 10 Pokemon for your Hoenn team. Emerald Edition. Starting with number 10, you won't actually find it until later on in the game. You have to wait until you get near Moss Deep City to pick up a Spheal. Now, since Walrein is so late, it actually misses out on a few vital matchups, though that doesn't mean it can't create an impact. In fact, it shuts down Team Magma's Last Stand, as well as Liza and Tate, and it's the only Pokemon on this list to deal with Drake. In fact, it doesn't really have that many weaknesses against any main battles either. It's nice knowing that you can use it in most battles after you get it. That means I give it my seal of approval. The 9th best Pokemon isn't nearly as late, but it does take advantage of one typing, the Water type. But see, you need to cross said water to even get it. After you get Surf from Wally's uncle, you can head over to New Mauville, the underground power plant off the coast of Route 110, just south of Mauville City. There, you can catch a Voltor, and at this point in the game, all of Electrode's strengths will shine. It deals with 2 of the 3 remaining gym leaders, being Winota and Hoenn, as well as Team Aqua completely. On the flip side, it does struggle against Team Magma due to the prevalence of Numels and Camerups, and is one of the many Pokemon on this list that also struggles with Drake. So if you need to deal with the water types with a fast electric type, well, to put it short, here's just an example of what it can do. Missing out on both the Ruby and Sapphire videos doesn't give this next Pokemon enough credit. Once you can access the desert area, you can pick up the Claw Fossil to get yourself an Anorith. Now, our Maldo is where it's at. With advantages against May and Wally, they'll be kicked into next week after you battle them. As for the gym leaders though, it does great against Winona, Liza, and Tate while getting washed out by Hoenn, but it kinda comes to a halt near the end of the game. I already mentioned Hoenn, but it also struggles against the water type using trainers from Team Aqua and Wallace when you get to the Elite Four. Even in the Elite Four, it struggles a bit. Other than taking Glacia out on a date and then beating up Sydney, it runs into the wall that is Phoebe. Not the best using attacks that your opponent resists. You'd think I say that, just use coverage, but realistically, it's better off that you use the stab boosting moves. Just look at this list from a different angle, and you'll see the differences between it and the other 2 Hoenn top lists. Now look at it again, and you'll see the anglerfish, Lantern, gracing the number 7 spot. Just after you are able to use Dive is when Lantern will come in handy. While only struggling later on against Drake in the Elite Four, it actually deals with almost everything else once you catch it. Both evil teams, Magma and Aqua, will change their ways after taking a look at Lantern, as well as Master and Apprentice Hoenn and Wallace. While the other 3 Elite Four members don't have much of a matchup against Lantern, barring Sydney's grass types, it would be a great asset for you to use. It's tanky, and it has one of the best type combinations, so you only have to worry about 2 weaknesses, ground and grass. It's a great fish and a great Pokemon to add to your party, but be quick to take the angle, otherwise it will pass you by. The third of many water-type Pokemon to grace this list, it's the Pokemon that will be useless after you fish for it early in the game. At least until it evolves into Gyarados. Gyarados is basically a trump card for you. It's a powerful attacker, it has a nice immunity, but due to the lack of the physical special split that occurs next generation, it isn't really top tier. That goes to a different water type. But Gyarados in the game does give the important trainers a tough time. Giving May a run for her money, and then taking her lunch money is always helpful, especially on Route 110. You can put out the flames of Flannery and Team Magma as well. It has its matchups scattered throughout the story, so it's not like you need to dump it after a certain point. In fact, its terrible matchups come at the hand of Drake with all he resists from Gyarados, and Watson because if you bring Gyarados anywhere near electricity, it will just break its leg. If only Generation 3 was the generation to have the physical special split, Gyarados probably would have been higher on the list. At last, we don't have a Water-type Pokemon to worry about. Sheesh. Finally. This one is actually unique though, mainly because either typing this Pokemon hasn't even been used. So to break it down, you come out of Meteor Falls and see some grass, but then you need Surf. Ah, f***, you say. Mainly because you see a cute little Swablu and really want it. Well, you better want it because Altaria is a monster in these games. It's a monster against May due to the Dragon typing, as well as Team Magma and Aqua. Actually, it's because of the Dragon typing, really. It's mainly brought in for resistances and just that. It doesn't have too many offensive matchups, but it does have an offensive matchup against Liza and Tate, who will rock you, and Glacia, as Altaria would be sent to the Ice Age if it went up against her. But if resistances are something you look for, or just need a Pokemon to take a hit, it's probably a great pickup for you. This Pokemon was at the top of its game in Sapphire, but for some reason it's number 4 here? I wonder why. Why is Ludicolo so much further down this list when you also get to face Team Magma, and the fact that Wallace is the champion instead of the Steel-type Steven? No idea. But Ludicolo is definitely the Pokemon with the most matchups where it's effective. May, to start off, is a great matchup since the typing actually shuts down her Pokemon. Roxanne, Flannery, Liza and Tate, and Juan don't appreciate it either, and neither do both Team Magma and Aqua for that fact. So what is holding it back more than in Sapphire? This seems like a perfect storm. Well, with all of the extra Pokemon gym leaders have, it may play a role in slowing Ludicolo down. Wally's Pokemon doesn't help much, and getting blown away by Winona and flat out walled by Drake doesn't help either. But realistically, Ludicolo is a great Pokemon if you don't want to deal with a Grass type's 5 weaknesses. There's always that silver lining. And here we get to the All-Stars of Pokemon Emerald. In fact, these final 3 scored at least 20 points more than Ludicolo did. Pelipper is our number 3 Pokemon from Emerald and picks up where it left off after winning in Pokemon Ruby. It's found early in the game, so you can train it easily, and it can kick May across the region. Route 110 doesn't look that scary now. With advantages against Brawly and Flannery in the early game, gyms won't be a challenge either. It has its uses in the late game too, dealing with Team Magma, but just like Gyarados, you're gonna get vaporized against Watson, and I don't think Pelipper tastes like chicken now, does it? So I wouldn't recommend it. It does get stuck a bit versus Drake, but which Pokemon doesn't on this list? Before we had 2 water types crowned as the best, and while they aren't the best in Emerald, they still are a solid choice, so take your pick. While having a great offense is a great path to victory, what about having a great defense? We covered this before with Altaria, but what if the number 2 Pokemon had an offense and defense? Well, Magneton has attracted 2 of those together like a magnet. Electric is a fantastic offensive type in Hoenn, while Steel is a great defensive type in the region as well. Put them together and you have the best of both worlds. Let's just ask the gym leaders around Hoenn here. Anyone who sends out a Magneton against me is smart. That thing is actually tough to get around because I can't really touch it, and it dominates my team. You know, it's one thing that it resists our Psychic-type abilities, and it's another thing that we have 3 Pokemon that are weak to it. It's so versatile against us, and it's actually quite disappointing. This thing is just such a magnificent being. I can't quite get past it, even when I try to use my Wish Cache. The trainer was always smart enough to use a Grass type instead. Well, would you look at that? None of those gym leaders appreciate Magneton. My sources say that Team Aqua and Wally don't either. There are positive reviews from May and Team Magma though. They think it's an easy knockout, but we also have some ratings from the Elite Four too. They all vote it 1 star. Sydney and Phoebe say they hate its steel typing, Glacia doesn't like cleaning up shattered ice off her floor, and Drake is the only one who loves seeing Magneton because it's such a great earthquake target. 4 stars. And Wallace? Well, Wallace just looks at the splendor as his Pokemon get electrocuted. We might need to check out what's wrong with him, but if any of these reviews say anything, they recommend using Magneton in your Emerald team. Before we get to our best Pokemon in Emerald, here are some honorable mentions, as always. Skarmory. It brings over its defenses from Sapphire, where it was really good, but with Team Magma and Wallace replacing Steven, it just can't overcome those issues. Sharpedo. Great Pokemon, but it gets resisted a lot in the late game. Swellow. I know, I'm surprised too. The regional bird being here? Well, with great matchups against a few of the gym leaders and with immunities to ground, it's definitely a viable option. Crobat. Shutting down May among the same matchups that Swellow had, even better with the poison resistances, but falls even shorter due to the poison weaknesses. Registeel. The best legendary again from Hoenn, but being Mono Steel can only take you so far. Swampert. The best starter out of the bunch. Unfortunately, it wasn't even in the top 20. Goes to show that the starters don't have much of an impact in Pokemon Emerald. But knowing what we know, who is the best Pokemon of Emerald? Before I announce it, try to guess it in the comment section below. Cookie emojis for the winners! This is gonna surprise you just like it surprised me. But let's say you nabbed the Claw Fossil like I said earlier in the video. You just missed out on the best Pokemon in Emerald if you did just that. I know, even I was shocked when the math came up with Cradle II being the best, but let me break it down. Because of its rock and grass typing, it can easily handle May. Winona and Hoenn also quiver in fear at the sight of its... Cradle II, put some pants on! But where it excels the most is against both Team Aqua and Magma. Team Magma gets decked by the rock typing, while Team Aqua gets dunked on by the grass typing. Even when losing some resistances due to the neutrality, the evil teams push it over to the top. And while it's quiet during the Elite Four, except against Glacia, where it's the only battle where Cradle II struggles, it's a big asset in the final battle against Wallace. So remember, make sure you get a Cradle II when you play Pokemon Emerald, and be sure to get some extra pants so people don't ask you weird questions about what's on its head. We spent a lot of time gathering info about Hoenn through Pokemon Ruby, Pokemon Sapphire, and then Pokemon Emerald, but that time stops now. We now need to fly into space for our next destination. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl are next, with another video covering the other two games from Generation 4. But as for this video, well, it's low tide now, so it seems like this party has come to an end. But to get back to high tide, to see more from this series or anything else, be sure to hit the subscribe button to join the squad today. With that though, I want to thank you for watching, and we'll catch you back at the top later on, because that is how we do it.